So in your piece, you talk a lot about this juxtaposition between action speaking louder than words, and sometimes prophets being a bit frustrating in their emphasis on calling out injustices, but not necessarily making compromises to solve the problems that cause them. But then also seeing the critical role play in reminding us of our ideals and showing us that people are in pain. So I wanted to ask you if you felt that you saw a gap in prophecy in the country in the past few years, and whether or not you think the Occupy movement has succeeded in filling that gap, or succeeded in filling a piece of that gap, or hasn't been successful at all.
So it's interesting. I think it's a bit too early to tell on some of it. I do think that there's been a lack of prophecy. I think that we Americans and we Jews have gotten sort of fat, dumb, and happy in our lives until, I guess, 2008, when the market started to crash and some of these injustices were revealed. I'm not sure how much we feel it in the Jewish community as compared with other communities, but I know that there are a lot of Jews who are suffering from it. I don't hear a lot of modern-day prophets as much. I mean, you hear some from our national leaders. I got to divide this up. I'm talking, I guess, in two worlds: the political world and the Jewish communal world. The Jewish communal world, I don't think we've been as loud as we could be talking about some of these injustices. And in the political world, I think it really has been lacking. And we'll get back to that in a minute. But to answer your question, I think the Occupy movement is a good beginning. And I think that they're definitely resonating with more and more people. And it's lasted, quite frankly, longer than I thought it was going to last. But I don't know what the end game is. It's certainly good it's good that they're raising these issues. And I am starting to see some politicians respond to some of these issues and embrace some of these issues. But I'm not sure what their end game is. That sort of concerns me.
Mm-hmm. And so you think time will tell what their impact will really be?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's the beginning of a movement to create more economic justice in this country. And so, yes, I do. And again, I've been hearing from some of my political friends, they're starting to adopt some of the themes, and they're starting to talk more about this openly. The injustices, the 99% versus the 1%, or the 1% versus the 99%.
Right.
So.
You just spoke a little bit about the Jewish community, and you referenced it in your paper as well, or in your piece, about the need for prophecy among Jewish organizations. And I wonder if you could speak a little bit more to that, what specifically you see lacking, and whether or not you see particular efforts that you think are filling that gap.
Well, I do see there's an organization I'm involved with called the JCPA, Jewish Council for Public Affairs, and it's led by Rabbi Steve Guto. I do see that organization starting to respond to some of these issues. They've got a hunger initiative. It's not just, it's a nationwide hunger initiative where they're working with all kinds of communities addressing that. There's a justice initiative, civil justice initiative that they do a lot of good work on. I think that the Religious Action Committee of the Reform Movement is really starting to get more and more involved. I see a little bit more from American Jewish Committee and their leaders starting to talk about injustice a little bit more. So I think we're getting there, but I just think that, I don't know, the last 3 years to me have been like a pinball machine on tilt. You're probably too young to remember pinball machines, but if you hit them too hard, they just quit working for a while. And I think we've just had this blow to our collective psyche the last few years, and I think we're just starting to respond and analyze it and think about it. So I think we've been a little slow to it, but we're getting there.
Great. So, and then as a final question, back to the Occupy movement, and I asked both Joel and our
Sarah.
underwriter this question as well. Sarah, exactly. the Occupy movement, a lot has changed since we wrote our initial pieces. A lot of Occupy movements have been kicked out of their respective tent cities, and are also starting to think about their particular strategy and how to become more effective or continue without the actual physical place that they had before. And it's raised a lot of questions about the future of the Occupy movement. And I was wondering if you could say a few words about, you said sort of the whether or not they'll be effective depends on what happens with them. And I wonder if you could just speak a little bit to what you see the future being.
You want me to prophesize?
Yes, exactly.
I don't know. I don't know. I hope that they regroup and come up with sort of some goals that they can accomplish in order to build a stronger movement. If all they're doing is going to just protest and sort of have a place to camp out, I don't think that's going to achieve anything. I think they really have to have some tangible goals that they want to do and then coalesce support for that. So I don't know. I'm anxious to watch. You also talked for a minute on a switch subjects. Heschel talks about the moralists versus the prophets. And today, this is, we're now on the 19th of December, and Congress is still trying to figure out whether or not they can do a 2-month extension or a 1-year extension, etc. And what I've seen a real problem with the moralists too, and I talked about that in my piece a lot about how ugly it is to watch the pragmatism and compromise. But when that fails, and which is failing now, and we see the lack of courage and the lack of accountability of our leaders, we're really in trouble. And I think that's a big problem too, and I think that may in fact strengthen the Occupy movement. If people's taxes go up as a result of Congress failing to get their acts together, people are going to say, hey, this is wrong. This is really, really wrong. And when they see the disparities in income and they see what's going on in this country, I think people are going to start, it may resonate. So time may be on the Occupy movement side.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, well, great. Thank you. I think we're done.